Good morning, Christina.
Hello, good morning.
I'm so glad to see you and see your smiling face.
I'm happy to be here. I'll do the
Uh,
thing again.
yeah. Um, well, thank you for coming and being willing to share your knowledge and expertise with the Alkaloid Mastermind Roundtable. So I appreciate that. And I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell us about yourself and then enlighten us on how Yelp can help our businesses.
Cool, absolutely. So yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of the job that I have is working with business owners and educating on all the free tools that Yelp provides. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen if I can figure this out. It's only been 3 months of Zoom calls, so hopefully I've got it by now. But yeah, so this presentation is going to be on Yelp for business owners. So just a little introduction. My name's Christina. I am the community manager for Yelp Atlanta, which means that I am in charge of planning and hosting all Yelp events here in the Atlanta market. I'm kind of the head of the user community here in the Atlanta market. And I do the social media for Yelp Atlanta. So Yelp Atlanta on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I also am kind of the boots on the ground representative for business owners here in the Atlanta community. So if a business owner has an issue or just a general question, I am kind of the go-to person, the go-to gal for all the free tools that Yelp has to offer. So I first wanted to say this presentation is going to be kind of a mix of two different branding styles, as you'll see. So I wanted to definitely touch on, what's happening in the world right now and how Yelp is kind of making adjustments for business owners and trying to make lives a little bit better and easier. And I also wanted to do just the general presentation on how the Yelp for business owner options really truly work. So please forgive me because we have a very COVID-19 style branding and we also have a very Yelp for business owner style branding. I've kind of combined them to get the best of both situations. So first I wanted to go into these user statistics. I think that we have some interesting statistics here because these are the people who are looking at the businesses. And these are the people who are reviewing and searching. So if you look at the age breakout, it's pretty even between from 18 and up. It's within just a couple percentages, but we've got the 18 to 34 is very close to 35 to 54 and 55 and above. So the user distribution of ages is pretty evenly spread throughout adults. What I think is really interesting though is the education and the income. So a large majority are college educated and the income, almost half of our users have a household income of above $100,000. So these are people who you want to be spending dollars at your businesses. And I think it's just interesting to get some of that insight. So another interesting fact that I like to share is that I think a lot of times when people think of Yelp, you think of bars, restaurants, food, and that's all. We actually do go way beyond. So as you can see, restaurants are our #1 reviewed category at 18%. And these are new stats for 2020, but this is not a trend that we see changing often, maybe within a couple percentage points. But I think what's really interesting beyond that is shopping and home and local services make up almost as much of our reviews as restaurants do. And then if you look at the other categories too, we've got beauty and fitness is pretty high up there. Health is pretty high up there. And then with some of the lower numbers, nightlife, arts and entertainment, travel, and auto. But I think that we have some tools that really well support shopping and home and local services, just as we do for restaurants. Okay. And then this is my absolute favorite slide. Because I think a lot of time Yelp gets a kind of a rap that we have, people just go on Yelp to complain, and it's super untrue. If you look at the breakout of the rating distribution, we have more 5-star reviews than we do 1, 2, 3, and 4-star reviews combined. So this is site-wide. This is not specific to Atlanta. But yeah, so site-wide, I think that's super interesting to know is that if you look at from the positive reviews, which we see as 4 or 5-star reviews, I'm sorry, 3, 4, or 5-star reviews, and the negative reviews, which we would consider the 1 and 2-star reviews. I think that the breakout is, when I first learned this, I was pretty astounded because yeah, I think it proves that it's not just a complaint site. And I think some of the tools that we'll be getting into are might help business owners see how we really do support with those higher reviews. Okay, let's get into it. So claiming your business is definitely the first step. When you claim your business, so anybody, any user can create a business profile. So let's say there's a new business across the street from me. I have liberty as a user to create Steve's Fish Market. And so what you can do as a business owner is to claim the Yelp business page. And so that allows you to interact with your consumers and get all of the free tools that are available for you as a business owner. So that's definitely the first step. The second step is the business owner's app. Obviously, it's a free app. It's makes it easy to manage your engagement with customers and to respond to reviews and to track. There's a bunch of different stats, like depending on what services you do offer, you can see how many times you showed up in certain searches and what keywords people are pulling you with. Okay, and so then next step would be to complete the business page. So that means to upload all of this super helpful information, which helps you come up in the searches. And so I want to kind of stop for a second and explain that I'm not an expert on any of the paid advertising features at all. So what I am going through with this presentation are all of the free features. Okay, yeah. So these are the tools that are just kind of there. Yelp is really here to help you get to your customers, which is especially important right now. Which we will talk about in a couple of minutes of kind of how communication is changing right now with customers and some of the ways that Yelp can help. But we're not putting ourselves at the forefront. We're providing these tools to help business owners get to their consumers in just different ways. So whether it's showing up in searches, whether it's identifying those keywords, or really just getting more information out about your businesses, that's where these free tools will come in. So the basic information, so what do you do as a business, hours, when can people get to you, obviously what are your specialties, business history. So there's a section where you are able to upload and say, I've been making bread since I was 4 with my grandma and now I have this wonderful business, blah blah blah. Meet the owner, which tells your story as well, and then recommendations. So those are all the free tools that you can set up on your end. Okay, so responding to reviews. This is kind of where what I was saying earlier with the star distribution. I think this is where business owners have a chance to bring some of their lower star reviews to a higher review. So as a user, if I were to go to a business and I didn't have a great experience and I left a 2-star review, a business owner has the power to, once you've claimed your page, you have the ability to respond to that. And maybe as the user, maybe you've invited me back in for a second experience, or maybe you've kind of explained, why you guys were having a 2-star day that day, or maybe I just took it wrong as the user. So then I have the ability to update my review. Or maybe I'll have another experience. It's really just the line of communication with the business owner and customers. We see responding to reviews is super important. You can either do it publicly so that any other user would be able to see it, or you can do it privately. But so it makes the users feel a lot more heard, and it also gives you a chance to kind of rally your point as well. Okay, so on to the COVID-19 updates. So like I said, we have some new tools that came out specific to COVID-19. And then I also, in a minute, wanted to talk about kind of how the community aspect of it has changed the way that we're connecting with our customers and the way that we're encouraging other business owners to also connect with customers. Okay, so we have done a couple of things, added a couple of tools to the site. First, relief for restaurants and bars impacted by the coronavirus. So that is all in the form of our tools. So we've created some new tools that would typically have been paid, and once businesses are up and rolling again, we're also offering some relief to businesses who have been impacted. Okay, new features to communicate business changes during COVID-19. Catherine did a really great job of updating her About Me section on the Alkaloid page so that people knew exactly when they could expect for Alkaloid to be back open. And so that is a banner that runs at the top of your page, where you as a business owner would have kind of the freedom to put whatever you want in that. I know Catherine put, we're opening back up on X date. Check the website for more information. And so that's one of those like super important communication tools with customers during this time, because as you guys know, everything is so different. Like you go to the grocery store and I'm like, am I allowed to be in here before 10 a.m.? Like, am I allowed to go, do I go inside to pick up my coffee? You know, the world is just so changed right now, that the more spots that we have as communication, the better. Okay, creative ideas and tips for restaurants impacted by the coronavirus. We have a bunch of tools on our blog. We have a whole team that's been dedicated to coronavirus implications. So there are tons of tools on our blog, which are all free also, with ideas and ways to kind of and not only for using Yelp also. So our blog offers a lot of information on how to use Yelp to the maximum, to get the maximum return, but also just what we've seen businesses doing and some trend reports from around the country. Okay, updating your Yelp page, changes in hours, temporary closures. So we have a couple of different locations on the page now where it can show even in your title. So if I searched for a coffee shop and my favorite coffee shop came up, but it was temporarily closed, it can show in the title so I know, oh, I can't go there this time. Or if my favorite coffee shop, which Academy Coffee, I'll just use them as an example, I really truly do love them, they have reduced hours, and they also have a takeout and delivery window, or I'm sorry, a takeout window. So those are two things that I found out on their Yelp page. So they've done a good job of updating their Yelp page as well. So I knew when I went that I would only be able to go, you know, after 9 o'clock. Usually they're open a little bit earlier. And then I also would be able to just walk straight up to the window. I didn't have to go in. I knew exactly what I was doing. So that's just one personal example where it felt a little bit more at home, to not have to be so confused on what is this experience going to be like. I feel like we do have to right now second guess what every experience is. Okay, and then setting up a call to action, business highlight, and Yelp Connect. So business highlights would be things like open during COVID-19, offering free virtual classes during COVID-19, offering takeout during COVID-19. So there's these little buttons that help consumers identify what changes you've made. Those are all free during the COVID-19 pandemic. So usually those are a paid feature, where it would say business has been open since 1920, or we offer takeout. So non-COVID-19 related ones, those are a paid feature. But the COVID-19 ones are going to be a free feature throughout the coronavirus pandemic. And then Yelp Connect is a newer product that we've seen a lot of good return with for businesses who are using it. It's similar to almost like a Snapchat or a Facebook story, where you can follow a business, and when you're on your homepage for Yelp, their messages come to you a little bit more easily, and they expire within a certain amount of time. So it's just a whole new way that we're connecting consumers to the business owners. Okay, and then I wanted to again mention the resource hub for businesses. That would be our blog.
Hey, Chris,
Okay, yeah,
would it be helpful to actually look at those pages? I can share my screen.
sure, absolutely.
Not that I have some of those paid features, but we can at least look at the pages.
Yeah, absolutely. I stopped sharing my screen, so you should be able to do yours now.
Okay, cool. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So this is the business information page. And you can see,
Oh, and it's on the back end too.
I'm sorry?
I was saying this is on the back end too.
Oh, yes. Because that's my view as a
Yeah.
business owner. So I did actually, this message here for COVID-19, I've updated it based on the fact that I had a soft opening just for members a couple weeks ago and just started offering tours again this week. So I did update that. And then hours and holidays, things like that, all the things you were talking about earlier. But then business highlights was one of the things you talked about.
Yeah.
And
Were you able to select some of the COVID-19 ones? Okay. We can work on that.
yeah, no, that never happened. I don't know why it's so slow to load. Although, because Zoom just crushes processors.
Yeah, it really does. It makes everything go so slow.
So these are all of the little tags, all the little highlights.
Yes. Okay. So exactly so all of these COVID-19 ones should be available. It depends on what you have your business registered under. So like diners would get a certain one, co-working spaces would not have the same that diners have, or, whatever. Gyms might have the virtual class option, but a restaurant might not have the virtual class option. But then, yeah, so this is good. So you can see the rest of these are just little like buttons that would show at the top of the page. And yeah, so women owned and operated, 18 years in business. So those types of things. So, yes. Okay. And then if you, I'll take the screen back because I do have one example that has a page with a bunch of different, he's really totally used all of the,
Awesome.
yeah.
Great.
Let's see. Okay. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So, how do I go back? Oh gosh. Okay, so Don's Diner and Cocktails has used a lot of these different COVID-19 options. So you see here, this is what I was saying, the call to action. He's offering curbside pickup, order now. So that'll take you right to his site where you can order. We've also got the COVID-19 update, kind of like what you were showing us, Catherine, where it said that we had done previously. It said that you had a soft opening, you'd be open on, this date. And now it says we're open and check for more information and blah, blah, blah. So he also at Don's Diner has used that. And then highlights from the business, as you can see kind of toward the bottom of the page, is where those, the COVID-19 highlights were. And then he also has, it looks like he has vegetarian friendly and a full bar too. So yeah. And then just going on to, this is just the hub, just what the kind of landing page looks like of our blog. And yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. But I did want to talk about kind of what we're doing on the community side. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, I wanted to hear more about like, what else do you do? Clearly you're not doing events, but in the past, like what kind of events do you do and what are you doing now to help the community?
Yeah, so my position is to specifically highlight local businesses. So our mission is to connect people with awesome local businesses. That's our national mission, international mission. But so what my job does here in Atlanta is connecting our user community. So that means anybody who has the Yelp profile. And then we also have an even more specific community of the Yelp Elite Squad. So these are super Yelpers who we consider like local influencers. So my job is to connect both of those groups of people with awesome local businesses, and a really meaningful and my favorite way to do that is through these events that I do. And I cannot wait until we're able to do them again in person. But what we're doing now is virtual events. So we have pivoted as well, as we've seen all of these local businesses pivot. We've had to make a pivot as well to virtual events. But what our events typically look like are, kind of remarkable experience to explain like what a business offers. And a lot of times we're combining more than one business for an event, but things like yoga classes and, dine-ins, and it's all across the board, the types of businesses that I'm working to connect our users with to have these kind of special experiences. So those have definitely stopped. Usually I'll have anywhere between, 15 to 20 people, or 30 to 45 people, or sometimes I'll have events that are as big as hundreds and hundreds of people. So they're all different. We would do between like 3 and 6 events per month. And so now we're still trying to do 2 or 3 or 4 events a month. They look a lot different. So before the pandemic hit, I had planned an event with Booty's Sushi. We were going to throw them a huge birthday party. And so at the party, we were going to invite, I believe it was like 120 people. So it was going to be it was really going to be a very cool party. They were turning 3. And so we were going to theme it as a total birthday party. We were going to have just tons of food and drink. And then also like a component of the event would have been a sushi rolling class, which I was really looking forward to. We always try to do something that's a little bit more hands-on and, like I said, remarkable. So with the Yelp events, it's usually something that, like, if I were to walk in off the street, an experience that I wouldn't necessarily be getting. So that was supposed to happen at the end of March, and it obviously didn't. We at Yelp decided to kind of pull the trigger on cutting all in-person events as soon as the coronavirus started hitting, so like in February. So I was pretty devastated about that. But now we have the option to do these virtual events. And we've now planned, instead of doing the whole birthday party theme, they instead have created a package for Yelpers of all of the sushi making, a kit to make sushi basically. So we are picking it up and then setting a Zoom call where they'll walk us through how to make sushi. So it's a little bit of a different experience, but it still is something that with their master sushi chef, we're going to be able to walk through how to make sushi rolls. And it's going to include, all of the rolling mat and gloves and knives and the rice and fish and everything. So those kinds of events are what we're doing. We're also doing a lot of like live stream workouts, twerk classes, so all different types of events that can be done and over virtually. But yeah, so that's one big way that we've kind of changed what we're doing, but we are still putting a lot of emphasis on these events because it brings people together with local businesses who they may otherwise not have really known about, or maybe didn't have a personal experience with and had another favorite sushi spot. So when it's sushi night, they just want to go somewhere else. So so that's one really cool part of this job, but also I run the social media for Yelp Atlanta. And so that's another place where we have totally changed. What we did before were like a lot of high quality food photos. And something that I think is really interesting that I'm seeing the trend kind of change is my best performing content right now are like super organic. And a lot of times if they have a person or a service worker, is performing best. And I think that's just a really interesting distinction, because before we were kind of like a food porn account, and people came to us to look for cheese pulls or, noodle polls or whatever the food trends are, which was fine, but it's a lot more fulfilling to be able to kind of have a little bit more of a hands-on approach with local businesses, and give a little bit more meaningful spotlights than just, a cheese pull, a piece of pizza with, a ton of cheese on it, which is wonderful and beautiful and makes me want pizza super badly. But yeah, we've done a lot of content with like kitchen staff with the masks on. And what I think has been a pretty big victory is being able to kind of almost report on restaurants that are reopening, and restaurants that have totally pivoted their takeout programs, and gyms that are, have gone totally virtual, or City Row. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they delivered their rowers. So their whole workout is based around like those rowing machines. And when this all happened, they delivered rowers to members. Like, it's just been like a lot of like feel good stuff, like just watching these businesses, like, especially in the face of adversity, like everybody is struggling right now, but it's been really cool to be able to highlight and spotlight what businesses are doing during this time. And I think that our audience is a lot more interested in that right now than they are in a picture of ramen. So yeah, those are a couple of ways that we've changed and pivoted, especially in the community program. And another like interesting distinction is that city to city is so different. So like what we do here in Atlanta, there's a very similar program in Miami. There's a person who does my job in Miami also. But what she's doing is a lot different. And what's working in the Miami market is a lot different than what's working in the Atlanta market. So I'm proud to say that Atlanta is really happy to rally around the businesses that are reopening, a lot of just like super organic content. It's a lot of like, get it out while it's happening right now. So a lot less planned and a lot more sporadic. Did you have a question, Catherine?
Well, so I know that, Alkaloid celebrated its 5th anniversary with a virtual party because pandemic. How are you, so when you have these events, whether or not they're in person or virtual, so one, how are you selecting the businesses that you want to include in those? And two, how are you finding the users to invite?
Good question. So a lot of times businesses will come to us and say, I have another business owner friend who did an event with you and I think it looked super cool. Or I think the business owner community knows that I have this crowd of people who are, it's a pretty captive audience. It's because people who are on Yelp are, no matter what the review is, it's people who are, we're all using local businesses anyway. But I feel like my audience is pretty captive, and the business owner community has a pretty good idea of, of what that looks like. So it's either I'll go to a business and pitch them, or a lot of times they kind of come to us and say, hey, we had this idea, just wondering if, we need people who are going to be here and engaged. And so, yeah, so that kind of works both ways. A lot of times when I include more than one person, like when I include more than one business though, it'll be a business has come to me and I've thought, okay, well, we can make this even bigger and better by including another business. So then I'll go and pitch that to them.
And do you ask the businesses for like their demographics so that when you go to invite users, you can actually refine and filter that invite list to be geared towards the people that are going to be most likely to be interested in that business?
So that's also a great question. So kind of going back to answer that, how do we get these people, is we've got yelp.com/events is it's just a running calendar and it pulls your location. So any Yelp user in Atlanta who goes to yelp.com/events will see the events that I've posted. That's for the general user base. We also have a specific calendar, the elite calendar, for our Yelp elite squad. And those people are the ones that I was saying were like the local influencers. They are constantly checking that calendar. I'll communicate with them every time I have new events posted, and I'll send them, we'll have like bi-monthly event emails, because usually we are just pumping out so many like fun events. So that's how people would know about them, either visiting if people who are not Yelp Elite would visit yelp.com/events, and then the Elite Squad would visit the Elite calendar. But yeah, so we have an RSVP system that kind of does, it goes through and pulls based on like a ton of different requirements. So I don't have total control over who attends an event. I definitely have some like tweaking abilities, but basically I'll determine with the business owner, like, okay, how many people do you need? I have done one event where we were able to get it super like close, because it was a pretty specific to Buckhead type of business, and so they really just wanted the audience of people who live like in Buckhead and the surrounding communities. So that is a capability, but we do have an RSVP system that goes through and it kind of like checks out the user activity and what type of businesses they've reviewed before, and yeah, where their location is, what their demographic is. But that's not something that like I go through and pluck people out specifically for. But yeah,
I didn't think that you did, but I was just wondering if somehow, the system could go in and find the ideal user that would be interested in that particular type of business.
Yeah, we actually have a pretty like robust system when it comes to that. It's actually pretty amazing, because some of the event like lists, the guest lists that it will generate for us, I'm just like totally amazed. Yeah, I don't actually even know all of the criteria that it pulls on, but it does to make sure that we've got the best audience at each business in whatever way data can provide.
And then once you determined, an event, how are you marketing it? I'm assuming that aside from users finding it on the event page, how are you communicating to the users that this event, or just the public at large, that this event is available?
Mostly through social media, and we have weekly emails that come out, also highlighting local businesses. So we have the local Yelp. It comes out every Wednesday, and it highlights 5 Atlanta businesses that are all local businesses, not so like no chains or anything will ever be in this email. And that goes to, we have a huge list in Atlanta of over 150,000 users on that. So that is one way that we communicate about these events. So there's a theme of each local Yelp, and so let's say, I think the one that just came out today was pizza, and it looks a lot different right now than it usually does through the pandemic, but typically we would highlight 5 different businesses with like stellar pizza, and so 5 different reviews from those businesses, where somebody says this is the best pizza of my whole life and blah blah blah. So that's another way that we give local businesses some love. Just like every week we're spotlighting 5 themed businesses, and then on that we also highlight all of our events, and then just other local events in the community as well. So that's one way, and then also social media. So I will always, especially if they're open to the public, they'll always go on Yelp Atlanta.
So how does a business get included in this weekly email if they would like to?
That's a great question also. So there's no way really, it's really just generated by the website. And so that's another one of those things that the website really just like does its thing with the data and pulls, but there are different themes each week, and there's a sponsor, an issue sponsor, and that's a lot of times where if somebody says they really want to be included, the issue sponsor is where we can kind of shed some light on a certain business, especially through an event, or so like let's say you were able to do the 5-year anniversary party in person. We could have done, at the bottom of one of those emails that would say this issue has been brought to you by, this issue of the local Yelp was brought to you by Alkaloid's 5th birthday or something like that. So that's a way that that's one way that we control, but we don't have much control over the other businesses who get put within the theme.
Right. Or, the free virtual co-working that I'm.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
8 weeks now, I think. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm trying to think if I have any other questions. Those were, you answered them well though.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, if anybody watching this has any questions also, I mean, definitely shoot me an email. I have my email up on that, the end slide, which I don't think I have shown anymore, but I don't know if there's any way. I'm happy to connect with, if any local businesses or even just users have any questions, I'm happy to put my name out there.
All right. Well, they can definitely get a hold of you through Alkaloid since you are
absolutely
here. And it's delightful, and I know you've come back a few times, and thank you for, it's so happy to see you in person, and thank you for following the precautions to keep yourself and everybody here safe. So thank you so much, and thank you for sharing all this great information. It's very, this is really good stuff, and thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, I hope it was helpful. I hope it got done what you wanted to. And honestly, if you or anybody have any questions and want me to expand on a certain point or anything, I truly like geek out about this. I love to talk to local businesses about this kind of stuff. And thank you for introducing so much safety protocol. There is disinfectant all over the building. I'm not there today. I just did not have enough time to get my butt over there. But it's truly like a safe haven. You are one of my favorite places in Atlanta, and I'm so lucky to be able to come co-work with you and at your lovely space. And I really, truly do appreciate all of the safety protocol that you've put in place, because it makes it feel still like home, just a very clean home.
And I got tested too to make sure that I was safe for you guys.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think I actually might be doing that later today as well.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Well, have a lovely rest of your day. I hope I get to see you someday this week.
I'll be there Friday.
All right. Well, I will.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for having me. It was lovely.